Welcome, dear listeners, to another chilling episode of Wicked Whispers, where the shadows come alive and nightmares whisper their secrets.
Picture a quaint, historic home in Key West, Florida, bathed in the warm glow of the setting sun. The gentle breeze carries the scent of saltwater from the nearby ocean, and the charming streets are lined with Victorian-style houses. But within one of these homes lies a secret so dark and sinister that it has become the stuff of nightmares. This is the story of Robert the Doll, a seemingly innocent toy that harbors a malevolent spirit. His lifeless eyes have witnessed unimaginable horrors, and those who have crossed his path have been forever changed. Tonight, we delve into the haunting tale of Robert the Doll, a cursed object that has terrorized generations. Are you ready to uncover the chilling secrets that lie within? Our story begins in the early 1900s with the Otto family, who resided in a grand, three-story mansion known as the Artist House. The Ottos were a well-to-do family, with their young son Robert Eugene Otto, affectionately known as Gene, being the apple of their eye. On his 4th birthday, Gene received a life-size doll from his family's Bahamian maid, who was skilled in voodoo and black magic. The doll, named Robert after Gene himself, was dressed in a sailor suit and bore an uncanny resemblance to the young boy. Gene was immediately enchanted by Robert and treated him as his closest companion, often engaging in long conversations with the doll. It wasn't long before strange things began to happen in the Otto household. At first, the odd occurrences were subtle. Gene's parents would hear him talking to Robert late at night, his voice accompanied by another, deeper voice that seemed to reply. Assuming their son was simply using his imagination, they paid little attention to it. But soon, the harmless incidents escalated into something more sinister. Furniture would be found overturned, household items would go missing, and strange, giggling sounds would echo through the halls. When confronted, Gene would insist that Robert was responsible. At first, his parents dismissed these claims as childish fantasies, but as the incidents grew more frequent and disturbing, they began to fear that something was terribly wrong. Gene's parents started noticing that Robert the Doll seemed to move on his own. They would leave him in one room, only to find him in another, often with a mischievous grin on his face. The doll's expression seemed to change, as if it were aware of its surroundings and the chaos it was causing. Visitors to the Otto home reported feeling an uneasy presence and claimed that Robert's eyes would follow them as they moved about the room. One night, Gene's mother awoke to the sound of her son's terrified screams. Rushing to his room, she found the furniture thrown about, and Gene cowering in a corner, insisting that Robert had done it. The doll sat in the middle of the room, its cold, lifeless eyes staring blankly ahead. Convinced that Robert was indeed possessed, Gene's parents decided to lock the doll in the attic, hoping to put an end to the disturbances. For years, Robert the Doll remained confined to the attic, but his malevolent influence persisted. The sound of footsteps could be heard pacing back and forth, and eerie laughter echoed from above. Neighbors reported seeing a small figure peering out from the attic window, even though the room was supposedly empty. The Ottos lived in constant fear, knowing that the doll's curse was far from over. As Gene grew older, he pursued a career as an artist and moved away from his childhood home. But when his parents passed away, he inherited the family mansion and returned to Key West with his wife, Anne. Despite knowing the doll's dark history, Gene decided to bring Robert back down from the attic, placing him in a room that he used as his studio. Once freed from his attic prison, Robert's malevolent presence intensified. Gene became increasingly obsessed with the doll, spending hours locked in his studio, speaking to it in hushed tones. And, growing more and more uneasy, insisted that Robert be returned to the attic, but Gene refused. He claimed that Robert was his friend and needed to stay by his side. The disturbances in the house resumed with a vengeance. Objects would fly across the room, and Anne often felt a cold, sinister presence watching her. The sound of footsteps and giggling grew louder, and the doll's expression seemed to become even more sinister. Despite her growing fear, Anne was unable to convince Gene to part with Robert. Gene's health began to deteriorate, and his once promising career as an artist faltered. Friends and acquaintances noticed a marked change in his personality, as if the doll's malevolent influence was slowly consuming him. Gene would often fly into inexplicable rages, blaming Robert for his misfortunes. And, desperate to escape the doll's curse, suggested they leave the house, but Gene refused to abandon his childhood home. As Gene's obsession with Robert deepened, he became increasingly isolated, spending most of his time in the studio with the doll. The house, once filled with laughter and light, became a place of darkness and despair. Anne's pleas fell on deaf ears, and she grew to despise the doll that had torn her husband away from her. Gene Otto passed away in 1974, leaving behind a legacy of fear and mystery. After his death, Anne moved out of the house, unable to bear the memories of her husband's tragic decline. She left Robert the doll behind, hoping to leave the curse in the past. The house was sold to a new family, and the doll once again found itself confined to the attic. But Robert's malevolent influence was not so easily contained. The new owners soon began to experience the same disturbances that had plagued the Otto family. Footsteps echoed from the attic, and objects would move on their own. The eerie laughter and sinister presence persisted, driving the family to the brink of terror. Desperate to rid themselves of the cursed doll, the new owners donated Robert to the Fort East Martello Museum in Key West. The museum staff, aware of the doll's dark reputation, decided to display him in a glass case. Robert's eerie presence immediately made an impact, with visitors reporting feelings of unease and fear in his presence. The museum soon began receiving letters from visitors who had encountered Robert. Many claimed that after mocking or disrespecting the doll, they experienced a string of bad luck and misfortune. These letters, filled with apologies and pleas for forgiveness, were placed on display next to Robert, serving as a warning to those who might underestimate the doll's malevolent power. Over the years, Robert the doll has become a notorious figure in the world of the paranormal. His story has been featured in countless books, documentaries, and television shows, each recounting the chilling tale of his curse. Paranormal investigators and ghost hunters have flocked to the Fort East Martello Museum, hoping to capture evidence of the doll's supernatural abilities. Despite his confinement behind glass, Robert's influence continues to be felt. Visitors still report strange occurrences after encountering the doll, from inexplicable technical malfunctions to sudden illnesses. The legend of Robert the doll has grown to such an extent that he is now considered one of the most haunted objects in the world. One of the most compelling aspects of Robert the doll's legend is the numerous personal encounters reported by those who have come into contact with him. These stories, shared by visitors and museum staff alike, paint a chilling picture of the doll's malevolent power. A museum guide once recounted an experience with a group of teenagers who taunted Robert during their visit. Shortly after leaving the museum, their car broke down, and they were involved in a minor accident. Shaken, they returned to the museum to apologize, convinced that Robert's curse had caused their misfortune. Another visitor, a skeptic, mocked the doll and took photos despite the museum's warnings. Upon returning home, he discovered that all the photos were mysteriously blurred, and he was plagued by a series of personal and professional setbacks. He eventually wrote a letter of apology, which now sits among the many others next to Robert's display. The story of Robert the doll raises intriguing questions about the nature of belief and the power of the supernatural. Is the doll truly cursed, or is it the power of suggestion that causes the misfortunes experienced by those who disrespect him? Psychologists suggest that the belief in Robert's curse can create a self-fulfilling prophecy, where individuals attribute their bad luck to the doll's malevolent influence. However, the sheer volume of personal accounts and the consistency of the experiences suggest that there may be more to Robert's story than mere superstition. Whether he is a vessel for a malevolent spirit or simply a powerful psychological trigger, there is no denying the profound impact that Robert the doll has had on those who have encountered him. Today, Robert the doll remains a popular attraction at the Fort East Martello Museum, drawing thousands of visitors each year. His story serves as a cautionary tale, reminding us of the potential dangers that can lie within seemingly innocent objects. The legend of Robert the doll continues to captivate and terrify, ensuring that his legacy endures for generations to come. The museum staff take great care in preserving Robert, understanding the responsibility that comes with guarding such a notorious artifact. They frequently remind visitors to treat the doll with respect, lest they too fall victim to his curse. The letters of apology continue to arrive, each one a testament to the enduring power of Robert the Doll. The enduring mystery. The haunting tale of Robert the Doll is a chilling reminder of the thin line between the ordinary and the supernatural. His lifeless eyes have witnessed unimaginable horrors, and his malevolent presence has left an indelible mark on those who have crossed his path. Whether you believe in the curse or not, the story of Robert the Doll serves as a powerful cautionary tale about the dangers of underestimating the unknown. As you leave the Fort East Martello Museum, the image of Robert the Doll remains etched in your mind, a haunting reminder of the darkness that can lurk within even the most innocent of objects. The legend of Robert the Doll continues to captivate and terrify, ensuring that his story will be told for generations to come. Will you dare to visit and face the curse of Robert the Doll?